Hey everybody. Now I'm sure a lot of you that have followed my channel for several years would think that the first Sega console I've ever owned was last year's Sega Genesis Mini, which came out as a response to Nintendo's success with the NES and SNES Classic Editions. Now even though the Genesis Mini is a great console to have, and it has some great games built within it, it's not the actual first Sega console I've ever owned. The first Sega console I've ever owned, and I do apologize if I'm going to stumble over my words, it's about 20 minutes after midnight right now, but it's not, like I said, it's not the first Sega console I've ever owned. The first actual Sega console I've ever owned, believe it or not, was the Dreamcast. That's right, the Dreamcast is the actual first Sega console I've ever owned. Now, even though it's the first one I've owned, it's not the first one I've ever played. The first Sega console I've ever played was the Sega Genesis Model 1, owned by my cousins back when we were kids. But as an actual owner of a Sega console, the Dreamcast is the first one I've ever owned. Now, how did I get the Dreamcast? Well, it's real simple. When I lived in Lawrence, Kansas on my own, I lived kind of across the street from a video game trading store called Game Exchange. It was on West 23rd in Iowa. But yeah, I lived right across the street from there, or in the vicinity. So I decided one day, since I think I was a few years into working with Burger King and I was living on my own, to go and buy it. I wanted to go buy, well, actually I wanted to go see what they had in stock, actually. And I saw that they had this. And this was around the time that I actually had gotten paid. I just got my paycheck from my job, and I think it was around tax time, and I just got my return from federal. So I decided that since I had a little money on my hands, I was going to get something from the Game Exchange, see what new games or accessories or whatever they had. And when I saw this and I saw the price they wanted for it, I said, hey, that's got my name written all over it. And next thing you know, the Dreamcast was mine. Now, you might say, well, if you bought the Dreamcast, you had to buy a game, right? Well, of course. Of course I bought a game. And the game I bought was Sonic Adventure. Now, true, I did own Sonic Adventure DX on GameCube, the Director's Edition, or Director's Cut, but it made me want to also finally buy the original because I wanted to see maybe if there was any difference. There's not much of a difference. I think all it is more like a graphical upgrade when it comes between both versions. But this game is just as fun to play on the Dreamcast as it is on the GameCube. And as a matter of fact, I think I've gotten just as far, if not as far, as I have on the GameCube version. So I'm kind of even tilted in that area. And what made the Dreamcast so unique and everything and popular with people, even with this debut of the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox and the GameCube and everything coming out to overshadow it, what made it popular was also the design of its controller. And its controller was kind of unique. I mean, if you look at one of the videos that Angry Video Game Nerd James Rolfe did on the Dreamcast game Seaman, yeah, it's called Seaman, even he was kind of complex by the controller because you would think it would go like this, but in fact it was like this, and that's what made it unique. Some would even say that the Xbox or Microsoft got inspiration for its controller design on the original Xbox from the Dreamcast, and that might be true. But again, the Genesis Mini is not the first console I've owned. It was this console, the Dreamcast. And the reason I bring this up is last year, in case you guys don't know, and it's still kind of being celebrated today, the Dreamcast was released in 1999 and in 2000. Now, I don't know whether or not, like I said, Sega, like they did previously with the Genesis, when they would go from Model 1 to Model 2 to Model 3, I don't know if they did versions or revisions of this to where they would re-release it, maybe take out the modem function, which this is, which meant you could actually go online. I don't know if they did that or what, but this is actually one of the first ones where you could actually, like say, go online. And how do I know this? Because I tested it out on several occasions. I tested it out with the dial-up option when I lived on my own, and when I came out here to live in California, I took the broadband connection from the Xfinity mobile modem we had, and I used the cable connected to the back here, and guess what? It worked. That's right. Many years later, even nearly 20 years later after its release, the modem, the internet still worked on this. And that's amazing. That was amazing, believe it or not. So again, like I said, the Genesis Mini, even though it's a great console to have, is not the first one I've ever owned. It is the Dreamcast. And the reason I wanted to do this little video here is to kind of let people know that, kind of share a little bit of a story you may or may not know. And, speaking, like I said, of the modem or the internet capabilities with the Dreamcast, it wouldn't be the only console that I would be getting that would have that capability right off the bat. The PlayStation 2, which I also bought at the Game Exchange across from where I lived, also came with internet capability. Long story short on that, when the original PlayStation 2 came out, you had to buy the internet adaptation for it to go online. Basically, you had to, I think, buy the connection to the back, or the connection for the internet connection for it, put it on the back, and then that's how you were able to get online. I could be wrong. But fortunately, when I went to the Game Exchange and bought mine, that I ended up getting the internet connection with it. But anyway, though, I just thought I'd do a little video here, let you guys know about the history of kind of tell you guys a little story, I should say, and give you a bit of a history on how I obtained the Dreamcast in the first place, and how the Genesis Mini is not my first console, Sega-wise. So, let me know what you guys all think down below. Comment if you like, and I'm out.